of infinite torches.
I've killed countless thousands. What's one more? Force of arms!
Welcome. Time has no meaning here. Your pain will be endless.
And defiance ends here, hatchling.
The appointed time is here. Victory will be.
Incineration.
You get the point. I do a lot of damage. Now, this is going to be a bit of a showcase, and then I'm going to talk about the more budget options you have, so you can also do this build, because my current setup is very expensive. And just to go through some of the items, you are going to use a Cosprey Malice Jeweled Foil, and ideally, you want one with Skills Fire and an additional projectile. I have one that not only fires an additional projectile, but has the Ice Spear and Ball Lightning fire projectiles in a circle, and they also return to you, aka a free Nimbus ring. So yeah, so this took forever for me to see one go up. It was very expensive. Okay, again, I'm gonna give you budget options in a little bit, but just to show this build off a little bit. Ring, very expensive ring. Curse items with frostbite on hit. Tons of cold damage and elemental damage. Big reason for the power jump. Chevron's wrappings. This gives you chaos inoculation. So chaos damage doesn't bypass Synergy Shield, which is good because we use a bunch of our auras with life reservation. As you can see, we have barely any life. 153. Alright. Now this has the +2 level of stack projectile gems. This also makes it quite a bit pricier, but you could get it without it. It's another budget option. Circle of Fear. PoE Ninja had me at about, I think, 115 million DPS. I just got this 6% increased spell damage per power charge. I get 8 charges, so that is now probably closer to, I don't know, maybe like 120, 125 or something like that. So when that updates, I will know. But I actually traded for this in between killing those bosses and then starting to explain the build. I just took a glance to see if there was one up for trade for a decent price, and there was, and thankfully he was online. Now I use another really nice all skills and all cold skills gems with a critical strike multiplier on it. There is a budget option. This is the more expensive damage based option. Now if you watched the boss fight, you'll notice I added the Uber Exarch in there, and I died the first time. I got one shot. That is an issue. I have chosen damage over some extra layers of defense, and we'll go over what those are too in a minute. You know, some of the options you have when it comes to that. Boots, Tailwind boots with energy shield and damage penetrates resistances if you haven't killed recently, which is basically 4 seconds, which means, you know, a boss fight. If you go into a boss, you probably haven't cleared any of the map minions for the last 4 seconds. You're going to pierce them. We use Prism Guardian for the reserve life instead of mana. It also gives plus level of socketed aura gems. This actually is probably the only item I could upgrade. I could get this with the implicit of aura gems socketed, get an extra +2 in it, so it would be +4 to the aura gems that are in here. That's probably the only thing I just haven't done yet. This is a Blizzard Crown with Ice Spear fires an additional projectile. It also gives me +1 at maximum power charges. Mage Blood, everyone knows what that is. And some cold exposure gloves and chance to unnerve enemies for 4 seconds on hit. I actually do not need on my current setup the inflict cold exposure on hit because I actually get it from my passive tree. But these are the best gloves I could find, and it doesn't hurt to have it on there really. I think this might be 10%. Yeah, plus minus 10% match resist. So actually I get a little bit more if this overrides it. To be completely honest, I don't know which one it goes into. or which one hits first, basically. I don't know if this one takes precedent over this one, so not 100% sure on that. All right, so that's why I'm doing so much damage. So if you can't afford some of these things, and it's highly likely some of these things are 30, 40, 50 divine. I mean, obviously the mage blood is very expensive. What can you use? Well, a normal Cosprey and a normal Prism Guardian are not that expensive. You do not need to get one with the added additional projectile. Obviously it helps, but it is not absolutely needed. Same goes with this. This is actually relatively hard to roll, and not a lot of Cospreys go up with this mod. But you can just use a normal one. And the reason we use this is because you trigger a Socketed Cold spell and melee critical strike. We're going to be critical striking a ton, certainly, and then 60% increased critical strike chance against chilled enemies. And because we're using at least Ice Spear and either probably Freezing Pulse or Ice Bomb in this, it is going to obviously chill a lot of enemies, and the critical strike chance helps a ton. More crits, more spears, more Frost Bombs or Freezing Pulses. Now in mine, I have Frost Bomb and Freezing Pulse along with Power Charge on critical. You are going to want to use Power Charge on critical and either Frost Bomb or Freezing Pulse, but you are going to want to use Frostbite. That curse is incredibly good and very powerful. The only reason I don't use it is because I get Frostbite curse on my ring. Okay. Prism Guardian is the same thing. You can use a normal one. The only thing you might want to try to get, and if you can't get it, it's not a huge deal, is the 100% chance to avoid being shocked. Because eventually, whether you can afford it or not, you might be able to get a Storm Shroud Jewel. And the Storm Shroud Jewel is going to combine with that chance to shock to make you immune to all elements. It's an extra level of defense. This isn't the most, this isn't the tankiest build, even on its best days, except for a couple ways we could do that we could go over. But this helps a lot. So if you can get it ahead of time, even if you don't have a Storm Shroud Jewel yet, it's super helpful. But yeah, you don't need to get too expensive with this at first. They aren't too expensive. I think they're like 25 chaos. Okay. Same with the Chevron's wrappings. You're going to want one with the right colors, but you do not need to get level of Socketed Projectile Gems. It is a big damage boost, but it is not 100% needed. Okay. Now with the helm, you are going to want to get either a Blizzard Crown, even if it does not have these good stats on it, or you can get a Crown of the Inward Eye. That is more defense for less damage, and that might help you out. And you can also get that with Ice Spear fires an additional projectile. Now, if you cannot afford one with Ice Spear fires an additional projectile, that's something to shoot for. Get a good farming strategy down, get some more currency. You can get there eventually. That's what I really like about builds like this, is that the upgrades for it are very straightforward. You can get something and you can see where you need to go. Like, oh, I got a normal Cosprey. What's the next thing? Well, let's try and get one with skills fire additional projectile or with this node on it. Simple upgrade. All right, I have a Chevron's wrappings. What's the next upgrade to shoot for? Well, get +2 level of Socketed Projectile Gems. Now you can also get this with Socketed Projectile Gems +2 and +1 to all gems to get +3 to projectile gems and then just +1 everything else. It's a big damage boost. I haven't seen one go up for less than 0.8 mirrors. So extremely expensive, pretty rare, especially to get the colors you want on it, because it is going to be corrupted. So you're going to have to use tainted stuff, and in expensive bench crafts to get that the right colors on it. Now for the rings and the amulet, there is going to be one major thing that you need to overcome, and that is we want to run a lot of auras. Right now I am running 7. You will probably be able to get 6 relatively easily, but you will have very little mana, and Ice Spear soaks up a lot of mana. It chugs it, so you have to get that down as low as possible. So what you're going to want to do is probably get 2 of something like this. you're going to want some dex to intelligence, a good amount on at least probably one ring, because you need to hit that 257 intelligent requirement or the 212 dex attribute requirement just to use a Cosprey. That is the minimum without getting something on the Crucible tree that reduces attribute requirements on the sword. It is still going to be a heavy investment in dexterity and intelligence. Now, you may be able to get away with using one of these and using a Divergent Inspiration support, because that's going to give you 46% reduced mana cost on your Ice Spear. If you cannot afford a Divergent Inspiration, you can use a normal one, but you will probably have to use 2 of these non-channeling rings. In fact, you might need to use them anyway, especially if you don't have a Mage Blood, because I use a flask that gives 25% reduced mana cost of skills during effect, and this is always on. So there's a solid chance you're going to have to use not only 2 of the non-channeling skills at -7 to mana cost, but also you are going to have to switch out your Annoy. Now, what amulet most people use for the budget version of this, and I say budget in parentheses because it's still about 1 divine, is the Presence of Chiyula amulet. That is going to give you chaos resistance, it's going to make sure you aren't stunned, and it's going to give you extra energy shield by the percentage of your health. Now you can see if you look at my defenses, do not have chaos res capped. If I was using Eye of Chiyula, I would be over 70%. I'd be 73%. Okay? Now the Anoint you are going to want to probably use on this if you don't have a Mage Blood or you don't have this reduced mana cost of skills up all the time, is the Essence Sap. The Essence Sap Anoint is going to give you a ton of attack damage, leeches mana, total maximum mana recovery per second from leech is increased, and just total recovery per second from mana for leech. As well as you can also go into, if you really need some extra, I believe there is some right here. Gain 4 life per enemy hit with attacks and gain 2 mana per enemy hit with attacks. We're obviously doing that for the mana leech, and then 10% of leech. 10% of leech is instant. Okay. Now for the jewels, some of them are pretty self-explanatory. The PoE Ninja and POB will be in the description of this video, so you can look at them. A lot of the jewels are pretty standard. Critical strike multiplier with cold scales, elemental scales, and just global critical strike multiplier. It's going to bump your damage. Got the basics of pain and pressure points, and you are going to want to stack these. Basics of pain, pressure points. I got them all over the place. Got 2 more over here, because we want to get to 100% critical strike chance as possible. That is a huge deal. We're using a Thread of Hope, so we can hit some juicy nodes without them being attached to the tree, namely this one and this one. And then another expensive piece is going to be the Watcher's Eye. Now it's a 2-step process. At first, if you cannot afford it, where did I put mine? I'll find you. Right here. So there's 2 very, very good mods on this. The one you want to prioritize is the 1.72% chance to critical strike while affected by hatred. Now, it could be a little lower than that. I think they roll 1.4 to like 1.8 or something like that. I can actually look. They roll 1.2 to 1.8. That's a very important mod for your damage and critical. And then, ideally, I would try to get gain energy shield per enemy hit while affected by discipline, because that is a huge quality of life and tank thing, because you're hitting very fast. You are leeching that energy shield very quickly. Getting both of these mods on there is expensive. Getting just the crit chance, a little expensive, not crazy. Again, hopefully by this time in the league, or if you're checking out some of my other videos, you will be able to get a good strategy down, start saving some currency, start working towards these kind of things. Also, quick note, yes, I know people in the comments are going to call me on this. I had jewels in these sockets. They weren't that great. I was replacing them last night, but it got really late. I got tired. I was like, I'll trade for them in the morning. So I'm aware. These are empty. They will not be empty for long. Promise. One more thing I should point out is with these jewels, you can trade out one of these critical strike multipliers or, you know, any of these buds for increased maximum energy shield to get a little bit more tankier. You don't have to go full damage. You can't do damage if you're dead. Okay, that is a very good rule of thumb. Ideally, I could find this jewel instead of that increased trap damage. It can have increased maximum energy shield. That'll be perfect. Be pretty damn expensive, but it'd be pretty damn good too. Alright, so that is the general overview of the build, and I absolutely love Cast on Crit Ice Spear. I think it is amazing. I've made it every league for the last 3 leagues at some point during the league, and I keep coming back to it because, I mean, it just fills the screen. It does a lot of damage. It feels really good. You aren't pianoing keys at all. There's just so much I love about it that I figured for the first time making kind of a mini build guide, this would be the perfect one because it is my favorite. Now, I did not go too in depth, you know, with a lot of things. I didn't go through every skill gem or anything like that. The skill gems that I have in here, I could have went over there, but it would have basically sounded like this. Divergent Cyclone. If you can't afford Divergent Cyclone, just get Cyclone for now. Awaken Greater Multiple Projectile Support. The level 6 one, very expensive gem. Just use Greater Multiple Projectiles or a lower level Awakened Greater Multiple Projectiles. And that's basically what it would have sounded like for all this. Nominal Ice Spear, use regular Ice Spear. You know, so if you can't afford it, this build is still pretty dang good at the lower level. You saw the kind of damage it does right now. It is, well, I shouldn't say overkill. Damage is never overkill, but it's a lot. You know, a build doesn't have to do that much or nearly that much to be good, feel good, and be fun to play. Okay, but unlike what I feel is a lot of other build guides that are out there, especially because they are made by either more prominent content creators or they're just people that put out a lot of build guides, I will be looking at the comments and answering all the questions that I can answer and all the questions that I see. So if you want to play this build, you're currently playing this build, you're currently building it, you can ask me any questions. The one thing that I didn't go over that I'm still not 100% sure on the best answer for, that I will either put in the description or maybe you guys have some ideas, is what to replace the belt with. Now, it probably would have to be something with strength and dexterity, because I use that to hit the Jeweled Foil's Malice. High requirements, stuff like that, but we can, you know, kind of figure that out together maybe. But yeah, any questions, put it in the comments. You know, the links to the POB and PoE Ninja are down there. So yeah, guys, check it out. Great build, and as always, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.